Right, let's talk about Outpost Black Sun, the second movie in the Outpost trilogy. This movie is about a woman who is seeking and trying to find Nazis that have survived the war. She starts by torturing and interrogating a man in a retirement community who is a former Nazi, and she gets some information leading her to an area very close to the Outpost from the first film. I was excited to see that the movie did have something to do with the first one. So commonly horror sequels have nothing to do with each other. They just throw the title on to sell the movie. This was also done by the same director. So I figured that there would be some continuity to it, and there is, but that's not always the case, as in with the Extra trilogy I recently watched, where the director did all three, and they all three had nothing to do with each other. So it's not always a guarantee that you're going to get, a cohesive story that bridges between films. What I liked about this movie was I liked the character of Lena. She's the main character. I thought the actress playing her did a good job with this. I mean, you can basically watch my review for Outpost 1 and you can kind of just rinse, lather, repeat what I said about that movie in most of the parts. The action is fine, it's okay, it's good. This movie is just good. It's just you put it on, it's there, I watched it, I had an okay time, I wasn't super bored, I wasn't super excited. It was just kind of like, okay. When it turned it off, I was just like, okay. And you can fast forward in 2 months, a month from now, and I would probably forget 95% of this movie. So that's not a glowing statement there. So I'm not going to say that I really enjoyed this movie, because I just didn't. I really don't, as I said, I don't really have anything new to say about this movie that I said about the old film, except for some bad. So the problems I have now, I hate to knock storylines and certain things, but this movie is trying to take itself very seriously for the most part. So the story is an issue here, where the main characters, Lena goes to try to find this outpost where she thinks the main Nazi villain is that she's trying to kill. And she meets along the way some guy she knew from her past, and he's going to take her into this war zone, basically. The government has come in and is trying to stop the Nazis from leaving the area, whatever. And so we follow them into the war zone. They're driving there, and they just get there, and they just run, literally just stop the car, because the car dies from the surge of electromagnetic interference or whatever the hell's going on there. And they just get up out of the car, and they just literally run into a war zone. Bullets flying like crazy, and they just run in like no big deal. And then there's the Nazi ghost supernatural stuff going on. And just there's no mention of it from the characters. They didn't know about this going in. And so you just run into a war zone. Oh, there's Nazi ghosts and the undead. And it's just really? You're not at any point going to be oh my God, what is this? And this can't be real. Or, yes, I know that in movies we want the story to progress and we want our characters to, grasp the situation and accept it for what it is quicker so that the story doesn't drag. I know in a lot of movies people are yelling at the screen come on, accept that it's a vampire or a werewolf or a ghost or whatever. And in reality we wouldn't, obviously, very quickly. But in the movie you want the movie, to speed along. But at some point, somewhere in the movie, somebody has to be questioning what's going on. What the fuck? there's Nazi ghosts, you know, like that's just never brought up in this movie. There's some super lame, like lightning special effects. Like the last scene of the movie is pretty laughable. I mean, the guy basically turns into straight up Emperor Palpatine from Return of the Jedi, and he's shooting lightning out of his fingers, and it's going on for a long period of time. And there's a decent amount of that electricity in the movie, and it just looks so bad. One thing that they did change in this movie is they added some color back, so the color, but it's not like colorful or anything, it's just a normal kind of tone. Towards the end, it does kind of seem to be a little bit more drained of color, more so, but I just think that's because it's in a darker place, not because they were meaning to match the tone. In this film, the thing I guess with the problem with movies like this is that, like I said in the last one, this has no gore of any sort. And I know that sitting here and being like, oh, well, a movie should have gore, it's not good. No, that's not it at all. If you're going to make a sillier movie, and you're going to have horror like this, if you're going to have Nazi ghosts coming back to kill, 20, 30, 50 people, and the story isn't that compelling, and it's mostly just all based on money shots like action and horror, give us what we want. Because what are we getting out of it otherwise? I wasn't intrigued by the story. I didn't care about anybody. There wasn't a character I cared about. Even though I thought the lead actress did a good job. I mean, she could have died. She could have not. I don't really care. I didn't give a shit about anybody. There was no humor in the movie, yet again. So the movie was pretty just blah. And what could have at least made it more fun would have been gore or, really unique death scenes, and it's just guys shooting at these ghosts that can't die. They finally figure out a way to kill them. But before that, and the entire last movie, they're literally just shooting at these guys, and it's for no point. It's just it's kind of like when you watch superhero movies. I remember watching Man of Steel and watching, Superman and Zod fighting. As cool as the scene looked, it was like these guys can't hurt each other. I mean, yes, eventually at the very, very end of their fight, something happens. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. But besides that, they can't even hurt each other. They don't even bleed. They don't. And it's kind of like how this feels. It's like there's no stakes when no one can die. That's why superhero movies for a lot of people are not great, because they know Captain America is going to pull it off. They go into the theater to see how, not to see if he can. And that's kind of the same thing here. It's like, what are the stakes when these things can't die? As I said, at least in this one, they did figure out a way to put them down. But in the last one, they couldn't do anything. They just kept firing bullets into them. So that just takes a lot of it out of it. And it makes me wonder why. I don't even know what the Nazis are doing. I don't even know what the point of what they're trying to rise up and leave they haven't left the area yet. So maybe in the third film they'll get out of the area and we'll actually get to see their master plan. I don't know why they don't have guns. They carry around bullets and they're pushing them into guys' eyes and stuff, and they have knives. But these are Nazi German soldiers. Why don't they have guns too? I mean, I guess it wouldn't be as... I would think it would be scarier. They're unkillable and they have weapons. So I don't know why they don't have weapons. But I was just very kind of confused the whole time about what the motives were and whatnot. And in a film like this, I don't absolutely need that. But when there's no gore and there's no jokes and there's no fun to it, it's that or not. As I said, it's fine as a little action horror movie, but it's so forgettable. I hope 3 is much better.